us through this session, we have a young, community-driven lady, Maureen Ngozi Chukura. Maureen Ngozi Chukura. Maureen, today I'm very intentional about getting your name right. She is the founder of Stimulate Africa Youth Development Initiative, a youth-led volunteer-driven nonprofit organization operating out of Nigeria and Ghana. Maureen is particularly drawn to community well-being, striving to create an atmosphere that ignites curiosity, brings creative juices up, and drives tangible results through dialogues and co-creators of change. Maureen is all about impact. If she knows and she feels resourceful, she will make sure others benefit from it, from the community, all across board. She is also a Toastmaster and the immediate past area director for Area 33 under Division G, then under Division M, then now Division G. She belongs to the District 94 of the Toastmasters community. She did that during the mandate of 2023-2024. One word that describes Maureen is explorer. Maureen Ngozi Chukura. Maureen, I hand over the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Kadiatu. It is so good to see you, and I'm super excited to be on here this morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whatever part of the globe that you are on, because I trust that we're a global audience right here. It is an absolute honor to moderate the next session with a very powerful house who will be speaking to us on building healthy relationships through emotional intelligence and assertive communication. And I'm looking forward to this conversation so much because I have my book and I have a pen to write down all the nuggets and gems that she's going to be bringing on board because she has quite a wealth of experience. I'll be introducing her in a bit. She is Yawa Hansen-Quao, who is the Executive Director, Social Entrepreneur, Female Leadership Advocate in Ghana. She's currently serving as a member of the Board of Directors at Assertive University and the founder of the Leading Ladies Network. She's the co-founder of Impact Hub Accra and an influential speaker and author. You see why I say it's important that we have our books, because we're going to be collecting a lot of gems and wealth of knowledge from her. Prior to her current position, she served for 3 years on the foundation board of the World Economic Forum Global Shapers Community and worked as a leadership consultant at the United Nations Women, assisting in the development of leadership curricula to enhance the capacity of women's leadership in Eastern and Southern Africa. Additionally, Yawa served for 2 years as a member of the advisory board of the Women's Institute of Global Leadership at Benedictine University. In May of 2012, at the World Economic Forum in Africa, Yawa was recognized as one of the African's leading leaders. And in 2016, she was awarded an Power Fellowship in honor of her pioneering work nurturing emerging women leaders. In her previous role as executive director at Emerging Public Leaders, she worked towards her goal of accelerating African development and economic growth through building a stronger civil service, strengthening the emerging public leaders, organizational development, and expanding its network of country-led programs. Yawa gained her BSc in Business Administration from Massachusetts University in Ghana after completing honors studies at the American University of Rome in Italy. She's an alumna of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, which she gained an MA in Gender, Peace, and Security. She additionally added the Protocol School of Washington, where she's certified as an international protocol consultant. This lady is a powerhouse, and I'm truly honored to welcome her on the virtual stage to take us on the topic building healthy relationships through emotional intelligence and assertive communication. Please help me give her a virtual hand clap or a physical one if you can. You're welcome to the stage, Yawa Hansen-Quao.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. It's such an honor, a pleasure to be here. I hope my sound is okay. You can hear me well. I hope you can see me. Just want to say congratulations to the entire Me Hemaa community. Papa is a very dear friend and collaborator, and I have a lot of admiration for what he has built through this community. And so many great people that I know, honor, and respect are here as well. So I do want to give honor to all of them before I get started this morning. I am thankful for the opportunity to join you today. I'm also thankful for the opportunity to speak to you on the topic that I've been given. You know, I have over 15 years of experience working with women leaders. I'm a advisor and coach to many women in senior leadership positions. I've also had the opportunity to walk along people through their journeys. And I realize that at the crux of many people's inability to move forward, to move to that next level, to move into prominence is really their inability to get their relationships right. You know, my theme for this year is prepare for prominence. I've been very, very deliberate about choices in my life and in my career that have catapulted me to spaces and places I never dreamed of. And I want to share with you some of the insights that I think could help those of you who may be feeling stagnant and stuck to get it right so that you can really be ushered into a more prominent place of influence. I really love what Papa was saying in his opening remarks about the context in which we're having a conversation like this. And the context is that, you know, Africa is rising and is risen in many respects. The future of the world is in Africa. And it's estimated that by 2030, one out of every five poor person, 3 of them will be African. So on the one hand, we've got the population dividend on our side, but on the other hand, we a lot of lack in terms of economic prosperity. A lot of us are in workspaces, but are capped at where we can rise. And I just really want to really encourage you to open your eyes, your heart, your spirits to what I hope will be life-transforming knowledge about how to build healthier relationships. Because whether you are in the world of work or you're your own business owner, you rise and thrive based on relationships. And I think the sooner we understand that and begin to prepare ourselves and set ourselves up for healthier relationships, the more likely we'll have success for this year and years to come. So I want to take you through my presentation deck. If I can, I think I have permission, right? Let me click it and see if this works. All right. Are you able to hear and see me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you clearly.
Great. Do you now see my slide decks?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you for confirming. So yeah, I want to focus on building healthy relationships, and you know, the organizers asked me to focus this on, you know, how do you leverage the skill set of communication, assertiveness, emotional intelligence to build healthy relationships? Because I know many of us, I'm sure, if we went around the room to ask what ails you, and we go to the crux of it, I'm sure it's probably a relational issue. What starts as an office conflict can erupt into such drama and trauma that you resign your job, right? If you had wisdom for how to manage relationships with people that you work with or work for or work, report to, or are married to, etc., the world would be a much better place. So I'm really passionate, if you cannot tell, about this topic, because I see that it really is the root of many of the problems that we're experiencing manifesting in our personal lives and also in our careers. So for me, thank you for the long introduction that was given, but in the lens of today's presentation, I want you to understand that I come to this having been trained by a few places in how do you, build good rapport. I studied at the Protocol School of Washington, as was mentioned, and that's the world leader in helping to train presidents and CEOs and heads of state, et cetera, for how to, and diplomats, for how to, build the kind of relationships that can be profitable and ease doing business and ease pushing policy, et cetera. So there is both art and science to this, and I want you to understand that I come to this table with both of them. So that's why I really want to reiterate aspects of my biography in. So for me, healthy relationships are about a couple of things, and I want to focus on two things. It's cooperation, and it's also compromise or concession. So for me, if you're looking to build a healthy relationship with anyone, you want to think in these two categories. Like, how do I foster cooperation between me and that person? Because a lot of behavioral scientists will tell you that it's hard to have prolonged conflict with someone that you're actively so fostering cooperation is a goal of healthy relationships, because, when you ask divorce lawyers, when people are getting divorced, what is it that was at the root of why they drifted apart, as they say? And the truth is, for a lot of people who get divorced, it often happens after their children grow up and leave the house. They've spent years cooperating on raising kids, right? And once that cooperation left, they no longer had anything that bound them together. And so the relationship deteriorates, right? So healthy relationships require levels of cooperation. So if you want to deepen relationship with someone, think about it from the lens of cooperation. What are the things that we can actively be cooperating on to keep us tied together? What are the things that we can do together to make sure that they have a vested stake in my success and I have a vested stake in theirs? Relationships, in order to be healthy, also require some compromise or concession. And, politicians like to use the word concession because it really talks about the fact that, you may not get your way all the time, 100% of the time, right? You may not get exactly what you want. And truth is, have you met people? People can be unreliable, people can be fickle, people can be, annoying, and I know that there's a lot of people, because I coach a lot of women and increasingly men as well. I coach a lot of leaders. And I think one trend that I've noticed about those that are not doing well in their business or in their career is that they are loners. They are alone. They like to do things by themselves. They like to be, they don't trust people. They have a deep mistrust for people. And so they take on more burden than they should because they don't trust anyone with anything, right? And the fact is, nobody is perfect, and you will have opportunities to be upset, disappointed, offended, distracted, betrayed when you are in cooperation with people, which is why the second leg of building a healthy relationship is understanding that relationships require compromise, right? Or concession. So a concession is I know that 80% of this person is good. I just have to manage the 20% of them that gets on my nerves, because I do not want to throw away the baby with the bathwater. I understand that I cannot have success, I cannot go far if I don't have people to build with. You know, one of my favorite quotes is that nothing of great and lasting value gets accomplished by yourself. You know, happiness is not a one-person job. You need people. And I personally believe that God made all of us to be in relationship with each other, to be in community, and to have ways of, you know, seeing ourselves through our relationship with other people. So, for example, through your friendships, you learn more about yourself. Your friend passes a comment and say, Yawa, I noticed that you really like the color red. You wear it a lot. And then you kind of pause and you reflect and you say, actually, I do. So you've learned something about yourself because of your connection and cooperation with another person. Sometimes the feedback isn't great, and that's where a lot of us run away from relationships. People give the cold shoulder, or they ghost people who give them difficult feedback. And I just want us to understand that healthy relationship doesn't mean that there will never be conflict. It also doesn't mean that there will never be issues, but it means that you hold these two legs of the equation equally. That one, you will be in cooperation, and secondly, you will have to be aligned to make sure that you compromise, because healthy relationships require compromise. I want you to understand as well. I want you to understand as well that a big piece of having healthy relationships is being able to put the pieces. I'm sorry, I have a call coming in that's distracting my display. Let me fix this really quickly and reshare my slides. Thank you for your patience and understanding. And let me put my phone on airplane mode. All right, let me try this again. Are you able to see my slides? Can anyone confirm that?
It's not back up yet, though.
Not yet back up. Okay, let me start from the beginning. All right. Do you see my slides now?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Thank you. And apologies again for that interruption. So a healthy relationship needs to walk on these two pillars. There has to be cooperation and there's got to be compromise. Compromise sometimes means that, you know, you have to resist the urge to, you know, be offended and walk away. Compromise sometimes means you have to look the other way. You know, for those of you who, you know, respect the Bible as truth, you know that we have a scripture in the book of Corinthians that talks about love, and love bears all things, believes all things, and, you know, love looks beyond the offense. So again, I want to establish from here that there are two legs of healthy relationships, and it's cooperation and compromise. And if you want to start building stronger, more profitable, more cordial relationships with people, think about the lens of what are the things I can cooperate with them on. Maybe they have an interest that is common to the both of you. And so I have a friend who loves a certain type of car. So anytime I see that car in traffic, I take a picture of the car and send it to them and say, look at this favorite car. But it's just a way of keeping our cooperation going, just a way of letting them know I have them on my mind, letting them know that, you know, I really, really appreciate, respect, and honor them. So think of the cooperation and then think about the compromise, right? This same friend is someone who talks way louder than I would like sometimes. So sometimes when we're together, I find myself having to draw back because they have a habit of speaking loud. And it's just something I have to overlook because I do enjoy their company. I do enjoy the relationship and the cooperation that we share. And so sometimes it's about looking strategically at what you need out of this relationship and looking at them through the lens of the cooperation and the compromise. Because when you have this as the framework, you can decide what actually is a wise move, right? So here are some traits that I put together about what a healthy relationship might look like. Healthy relationships usually are built on a foundation of mutual respect. and acceptance. And you can't really compromise with someone without accepting who they are, that this person is incapable of doing this, or so I won't fault them for that, because that's not my weakness. But when you look at the world through the fault of why did they do this and why did they do that, because you would never do that, you set yourself up for failure. And failed relationships means you can't get as far as you need to go in order to succeed. Honesty is another big one. Dependability, loyalty. You can write in the chat box what other characteristics for you define a healthy relationship. These are just some of the few that I felt were important. And I wanted to focus on empathy, because sometimes, we become a little prideful, especially as we navigate our careers and we become influential and we have people working for us, reporting to us. Sometimes we lose our sense of empathy, our ability to put ourselves in another person's shoes, our ability to think about the world from their perspective. And then it affects our ability to be a blessing, and our ability to be effective, and our ability to go far. So empathy is just really, can you share in what that person might be experiencing, so that you temper your judgments and work from a place of, respect to someone who may not be where you are or have the experiences that you have, so that you can still remain in relationship. I love the fact that I have different networks of people. I have people in very high influential positions, and I have, networks of people who, look up to me as an inspiration. And, I think for every Me Hemaa and every guest on today's call, I want you to understand that to be successful, you do need these three circles of people. You need a circle of those that are with you. So you need peers. Never forsake your peer networks, right? But you also need a circle of people behind you. Those behind you may need you more than you need them. But another thing about those behind you is they see things that you probably haven't been exposed to yet. I love the fact that the young women that I mentor tell me what's what. They tell me what's hot. They tell me what, the other day I said, "Oh, that's the bomb." And then they kind of rolled their eyes at me and said, "No one says that's the bomb anymore." And I'm learning new language. They're teaching me new skills. They're teaching me new tech. And part of having networks is by making sure you network in these three circles: the circle of those behind you, those that you're mentoring, pouring into, supporting, the circle of those that are with you. Those are your peers, and the circle of those ahead of you, right? Those that you look up to, who are pouring into you, right? Because when it comes to managing and maintaining and cultivating healthy relationships, you can't do it without communication. And the truth is, you can't really communicate to everyone the same way. And that's why I think it's important for us all to segment our networks, the networks of those behind, those with, and those ahead, because the way you communicate with them is different, right? The call I missed right now is a call from a very influential woman leader in Kenya. I'm going to be hosting, for the first time, our standout women's leadership experience in Kenya on August 31st. And so she is, the head of the UN in Nairobi, and she's an undersecretary general, a person of great rank, and she's just agreed to host the event. So I'm sure she was calling me to thrash out some details, but she is someone who's above me. And so I have to, in my communication with her, be deferential, be respectful, be, not that I don't respect everybody, but I have to go an extra mile in how I communicate with her, right? So there are aspects of communication that have to be tailored for the audience you're communicating to. And understanding who your networks are, understanding who's who and what the relationship is can help you, employ some of these things like active listening, really paying attention to what they're saying and what they're feeling, but also sometimes what they're not saying, what they're not expressing. Communication is being able to take those both verbal and nonverbal cues so that you can make a best judgment call on your response, you know, I believe that it's always better to respond, not react to what you're being said or told or done, whatever is being done or said to you. And I'll talk a little bit about that as the presentation goes on, because there's so much. I usually teach these topics in like a 3-day seminar, and I'm trying to pull the best of everything I know into this short time for you. But a big piece of the communication that I want to emphasize is that as a communicator, you want to be able to, you know, clarify if you don't understand. You want to encourage, and this is especially helpful for those of us who are above people. You know, some people feel like they cannot tell you the truth. So you have to, in your communication, demonstrate that you want to hear the truth, even if it's unpleasant. Also empathizing, again, as I said in the previous slide, is an important piece of how we communicate excellently to build the kind of healthy relationships that will propel us to the next level. You know, one of the frames that I want you to think about as you communicate, and I'll talk a little bit about this as I get into assertiveness, is framing messages from the I perspective instead of you. You know, when someone says, you do this and I don't like what you do, it puts people on the defensive. But when you said, you know, when anytime someone tells me, you're being silly, it makes me feel offended. So could you please not use the word silly when you're talking to me? So it's different. I'm talking about me, you know, because some people, and I teach this when I teach intercultural communication, that don't be silly means different things to different people. To some people, it's just a jest. To some people, it's an offense. And depending on where that person is on your circles, in your networks, that could trash a relationship. And so you want to understand that when you're communicating, especially when you're communicating things that are difficult or giving critical feedback, you want to make sure that you speak from the perspective of I, because not everybody is the same. Something that might offend you doesn't offend me. Or something that offends me, you might let slide. So because of that, that's why I really want you to understand, big picture, I want cooperation and compromise. I understand that. And maybe in my communication, I might let that slide because this person belongs to this circle. But with this person, I need them to understand that that's not okay. Because otherwise, you could be setting yourself up for failure. I know some trainers talk about the fact that if you don't like something, say something. But I do think we always have to give context. You know, who is this person in your life? Is this a client? You know, I have had clients, you know, male clients talk about, you know, say things that kind of border on them hitting on me. And I have to make a judgment call. The feminist in me wants to stand up and say, hey, don't you know that's inappropriate to say to women? But then the business owner in me wants to say, you know what? I'm here for the business. I'm going to let that slide in the moment. And then the Christian in me is like, oh, this poor soul. He doesn't understand that he's just piercing himself with many sorrows. So you've got to understand that you have different roles, and therefore you have different frames in which you see the world. But I invite everyone on this call to think very strategically. And that means, do I want to maintain cooperation with this person? And if so, what are the compromises and concessions that I might need to give, even in how I communicate, so that I can maintain a relationship that's healthy enough for me for it to be a mutually beneficial connection, right? I hope this is making sense. You can use the emojis to let me know if this is making sense, or just use the chat box as well. I will try to power through as much of this and leave space for questions and answers at the end as well. You know, our communication is important, but our brains often don't keep up with how fast we receive information. You know, the behavioral neurologists talk about the fact that our brains were designed to forget about 30% of everything within a 72-hour period. So within 3 days, like much of what I am saying to you today, you will forget, which is why I hope you're taking notes and you might revisit the recording if it's shared as well. So there are some barriers to effective communication. And the big one I see a lot in my practice is unrealistic expectation. when someone comes up to you and says, can you imagine this person said this? And I was like, yeah, people are interesting. So I'm not surprised by much. I'm not surprised because everybody is different. Do you know what that person experienced in life? Do you know what they're facing at home or at work? Do you know the level of stress they are under? You don't. So don't be quick to set a bar this high for people because that's your bar. Understand that, everybody is individual and unique, and the way that they may come to relationships or involve themselves or communicate may leave much to be desired, but yours is to know best practices and maintain, the empathy that's needed to foster good collaboration, right? I know another barrier for a lot of people is they think of themselves a little more important than they should. So sometimes it's hard for people to connect because simply they just have a chip on their shoulder. I am the bomb.com. Okay, my friends have told me to stop saying .com, but the bomb. But you know what I mean. You might think so of yourself so important that no one can come to your level. And so in your communications with people, you might come across as very, very mean, standoffish. Some of the best feedback that I ever received was, Yawa, fix your face. Because by nature, I am a very cerebral person, meaning I'm always thinking about something, I'm always processing something. I read a lot. In my childhood, my mother used to say that I was the easiest of my siblings because I would bury myself in a book and be okay for the day, right? But as I matured, I realized that I couldn't live in my head. I had to learn how to be more expressive because sometimes I'm in an environment with other people, but my face looks like I'm, sad or, you know, upset, or it looks sometimes prideful, but it's all because I'm just focused on what I'm thinking about, and what I'm thinking about in my head is sufficient for me. So I've had to learn how to get out of my head, and especially when I'm around people, to show facial expressions, to show excitedness, to show kindness through a smile. You might notice as I'm presenting, I'm smiling, I'm tempering what I'm saying with smiles and facial gestures just to keep you with me, because that didn't come naturally to me. I had to learn it. And some of it was through uncomfortable feedback. It was my mentors and people who were close to me saying, Yawa, you don't look inviting to talk to. And I know a lot of people who, before they got to know me, they said, well, when I first saw you, I thought you were so standoffish. I thought you were so proud and haughty, and that's good feedback. So I just really want to reiterate the fact that, look, we all need feedback, but if you want to have good communication, which is the bedrock of building healthy relationship, you've got to temper how you think about yourself. Yes, we know you're a CEO. Yes, we know you're president so-and-so. Yes, we know you've studied at Harvard or at Oxford or whatever it is, but tone it down, right? And I think if we all caught a better sense of our personal identity, we wouldn't need other people to think about us more highly than we think we are, right? So work on yourself so that you have a good sense of who you are, so that the vibe that you give out to the world is one of calm collectedness, and then you're in the posture where you can relate to people with all honesty and kindness and warmth. There's a Bible scripture that I've been praying over myself for several years now. The Bible talks about the fact that the ways of wisdom are paths of pleasantness and peace. That, Lord, help me to be pleasant and peaceful. It's the wise way, right? And I hope that helps you as you think about your persona. Like, are you really someone that people want to get to know, want to get to do business with, really want to get to have in their corner? Are you someone who's just so bougie for your own good that nobody wants to do business with you or relate to you or connect with you? And then the last thing I want to say about the barriers is prejudice. Some of us have preconceived notions about people from certain countries or certain genders. Some of us don't understand that we might be misogynistic in how we think about men or women, or we might be thinking of people through a lens. Like, hold your assumptions lightly. It helps in life and in business and in every arena. Hold your assumptions lightly. Don't judge people just because they are this religion and not yours, or that they're from this part of the world and not yours. You will be pleasantly surprised how what kind of worlds of opportunities open up to you when you let go of prejudice. I hope this is going well. You can keep your comments flowing through the chat box, and show me your emojis and let me know this is going well. But yeah, as we think about healthy relationships, we really cannot overemphasize the fact that because relationships are between people, and people can be some way, as we say in Ghana, people will have tension. There will be some tense moments. There will be people who cross the line of what you may feel is acceptable behavior. There will be conflict. There will be, why did she say this to me? Why did she talk to me that way? Why did he think it was okay to call me girl? Like, I have been offended. I don't know if you've never been offended before, but I've been offended. And so because there's things like offense and conflict and friction, there's this body of knowledge called assertiveness. Because, I'm not teaching you to endure things just for the sake of healthy relationships. I want to now give you some of the tools that you may need to use when a line is crossed for you, when someone has violated something, or when you're in a position of authority over someone and you do need to let them know what needs fixing. Assertiveness is that body of knowledge in your communication that I'd like for you to integrate in order to maintain healthy relationships, right? So assertiveness really is your ability to communicate what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you need in an open and frank manner that is direct, but yet respectful. All right. So direct means you're not words, you're not beating around the bush, you're not saying one thing and people are misinterpreting it. And I have realized that, especially in Ghana, we tend to be very indirect. I am a multicultural Ghanaian, so formative years of my life were spent in the US, but I adulted here in Ghana. And as I was growing up and going into the working world and things like that, I just realized that actually, I had this tension between my direct American, childhood and this kind of indirect life that we live here in Ghana. So assertiveness calls out directness. And that's why I think a lot of us might struggle with this, because in addition to our, cultural context, we have traditional belief systems that make us feel as if we can't say things directly to people. And that's why a lot of us aren't winning at work. I coach a lot of women leaders. I coach a lot of men as well who weren't winning at work because of this lack of ability. Your inability to speak directly but respectfully about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you need can be the difference between you staying at the same level in your career or you moving and elevating. So I really want you to hear this as a career strategy as well, as a business strategy if you're a business owner, because there are some of us who've been hiding behind, oh, I could never say something like that to someone this important, or I could never tell my boss that, actually, could I have a few minutes of your time? The other day when you came into the staff room and you said this to me in front of my colleagues, I felt very offended by that. It means a lot to me, to have your respect, but I felt very disrespected by what you said. So in the future, I would appreciate if you have something to say, can you please keep it about the work and not about my person, because this hurt me. How many of you could have a conversation like that with your employer? Many people will be like, oh, this is a person who signs my check. This is the person who, I report to. They have too much power over me, so I can't say anything. And because of that, some of us are on jobs. Our physical bodies are there, but our spirits have checked out. Our willingness to try, we've checked out. We don't do the work with love anymore, and I believe it's a spiritual principle. Like, you reap what you sow. So if you're sowing bad seed in the workplace, you can't expect good rewards in terms of promotion, in terms of advancement. And so assertiveness is that tool that I believe is useful for us to integrate into our communication so that we can have honest relationships with people. We can let people know when they've maybe crossed a line, they've stepped on our toes, they've offended us in a way that needs fixing. But it's about doing so from a posture of love. And, I believe that assertiveness is actually like a biblical principle, because I see so many correlations between this training, which is, assertiveness is like a business workplace term, but I see so many correlations between it and, the Bible, which says that, if you have something against someone, go to the person, thrash it out. If it doesn't work out, bring someone with you, bring a mediator and try to thrash it out. So I believe that God wants us to be assertive people who don't just let things fester and let hurt fester and let things stay. And then, we become a community of people who don't talk to each other just because we're offended and no one knew why the other person was offended. So this is a tool to help you fix those relationship issues. I've found it very useful, even in marriage, just being able to respectfully tell my husband, that honestly, I love you dearly. You are my ride or die. But what you said to me yesterday and how you said it offended me. And I really want you to know that when you use a word such as this with me, it hurts me deeply. So please, in the future, don't use this word with me. And then we solve the problem, right? So it's not about you. Every day you are disrespecting me. You don't respect, but it's I feel this way. I need you to not do this, or I would really like it if you talked to me differently or said this differently. So I hope you're seeing how this fits into the communication piece, because without assertiveness, we might be communicating, but offending and burning bridges while we do it, right? So assertiveness is about being clear, being confident, and also expressing yourself in a non-confrontational manner. And some of us are like, look, if you bring yourself, me too, I will bring it. I will take off my earrings and we will have a fight. It's about elevating yourself to the place where, it's not about the fight. It's about stating what you need to be done or addressed in a clear and confident manner so that the relationship can be restored without additional hurt. You see, when you come at people with confrontation and judgment, they immediately become defensive. And when they're defensive, it becomes less about listening to what the problem is and more about defending themselves from harm, right? And so when people are defensive, they're not listening. They're just waiting to throw the next blow or throw the next punch. Assertiveness helps you disarm people because you're coming at them with information that they need and can receive as feedback instead of an attack. So this is useful because it helps you to establish, the right kind of boundaries around you. Some people say, I'm in a workplace where people say things that I don't like and whatever. And my first question is, have you ever told them that you don't like those things? He said, oh, but they should know. No, no, no. Nobody, let's not make assumptions. Nobody was raised the same way you were raised. No one has the same background and choices and preferences that you have. So you do people you do people a favor, and it really is a gift when you can assert yourself in situations that really, really trouble you. All right. So I like to call this respectful assertiveness. It's not the aggressive or the disrespectful. You offended me. Don't you know this is not how you talk to people? Don't you know this is not, what bush mannerism is that? That doesn't work. It just offends the person. What do you say? When you talk to me that way, it makes me feel this big. It makes me feel like I don't matter. Please don't talk to me that way. Thank you. And then thank them for listening. And then thank them for hearing you out and tell them that, look, I value our relationship. And that's why I'm saying it, so that people understand that, oh, she just wants me to know that she's hurting, not that I'm a bad person. She just wants me to know that she needs me to act differently next time, not that she wants to break the relationship. So when you apply these rules, respectful assertiveness. It enables you to maintain relationships much more strategically than if you were the kind who just meets tit for tat. When you're offended, someone hurts you, you want to quickly make them feel the pain that they have made you feel. There's something elegant and elevated about respectful assertiveness. When you have the right to be angry and blow off your top in anger and show them in vengeance, but you don't, there's something classy about that type of behavior. You know, I teach a class called Outclass the Competition. It's a business etiquette seminar where I teach things like this because many of us are missing out on these simple tweaks to the way we interact and the way that we engage with people that could stand to help us move much more further than we currently are. I've seen this play a big role in my career. I know I was probably 26 when I was in my first managerial job. I was, a manager over men who were old enough to be my uncles and father, and I had to learn the power of respectful assertiveness to say, in our cultural context, I might be your little girl or your daughter or I remember walking by one day and one of them said, "Oh, bah." And he said it in Chi, like, and for those who aren't from Ghana, that means woman. How could a woman be boss over me? And I invited him to my office and we had a respectful assertiveness conversation. I told him, I know we're in Ghana and I know the fact that, this looks a bit odd and it may be difficult for you. And it's also difficult for me because I know that culturally you're my father. Culturally, you're like an uncle. Culturally, you should be the boss of me. But this is not culture. This is a company. And in this company, I'm your boss. So next time, I cannot accept you talking to me this way. And if there is a next time, we will have to have some disciplinary action because there are other women in this office. And if that is your personal perspective, you need to keep it to yourself. Because in this company, this is the kind of environment we're trying to create, not just for you to thrive, but also for the others. And some of those others are women. And if you don't feel that women belong here, keep it to yourself because they're here and they deserve to have a work environment that is just as conducive as you enjoy. So he's like, "Oh, madam, I'm so sorry." He got down on his knees and he started to beg. I said, "Oh, no. This was just me letting you know that this is like, you can think that, but think it in your head. But in the confines of where I have responsibility over, this is unacceptable." And that could have gone differently, right? I could have been so offended. Next time there's an opportunity, I'll make sure I cross the list. I have the power to do that. I could have been so like, these men, and then cause another problem because I would make another assumption that these men, they don't respect us as women. And some of us are dealing with that. This is a whole community of vibrant women. And I have to say that just as some men have entrenched positions about women, some of us women have a lot of entrenched positions about men. And we can't foster cooperation and concession with each other because each of us holds our assumptions too tightly. So I hope this helps you because if you begin to deploy the tools of respectful assertiveness, it doesn't mean you let people hurt your feelings. It means that you address them in a clear and confident way that enables people to not feel judged, but feel invited to elevate themselves, right? So there are some challenges to assertiveness, I will acknowledge, and some of the challenges are just simply that many of us are struggling with our own personal sense of identity. We haven't discovered ourselves. We haven't quite done the internal work to really realize that we are worthy enough of respect, and so we don't require it from other people, right? So I believe that the bedrock for assertiveness or even building healthy relationship is first have a healthy relationship with yourself. Like, understand who you are, understand that you're a person of worth and value first. Otherwise, you won't even have the confidence to approach a conversation that requires you to be assertive. I also realize that many of us don't have self-awareness, the ability to be emotionally intelligent, to read a room, to read nonverbal cues. And there are tons of great books that I like to recommend you. You know, if you're interested, I'll give my email address at the end of today's session. And maybe I'll ask the conference organizer, so I just email it to everybody who registered. But I do have a resource list of books that have helped me over the years, of trainings that I've done that have helped me over the years, that I think those of you who see that you really need to grow in this area of your development, there is help. There are so many resources, and you can just do a Google search as well. But I want to share with you the resources that helped me personally, because I think I needed to grow in this area, because at heart, I'm a diplomat. I like everyone to just get along. I don't like tension. I don't like conflict by nature. But I realized that that was eroding my ability to be a polished world-class professional. It was eroding my ability to get the respect that I deserved in certain spaces, because I wasn't practicing the rules of respectful assertiveness. So emotional intelligence is about understanding that, look, you might be triggered by something. First, start with you. What is it about this situation that might be triggering me right now? What is it? What is the assumption that you've held so near and dear that might be showing up right now? What are the past experiences that you have had in your life that make you touchy when someone talks about this? I realized that I had a lot of touchiness around my voice. You know, I grew up in a multicultural environment. We were Ghanaians living in America. And in addition to being the Ghanaian family with the strange names, I used to get teased for the deepness of my voice. And so even to this date, I could get a call with someone and they'll say, "Oh, yes, sir," because they just assume they're talking to a woman, right? But I had to get over that. And I realized that I was taking that childlike hurt that I experienced as a young whose voice wasn't quite accepted. I was taking that with me on my career. And it was through coaching that I began to realize that actually that's what's showing up here. You're touchy, you're a little prickly and hard to relate to, because you're still that scared little girl who felt like nobody could see her because of the mask of this deep voice that she appeared in the world with, right? And so I just want to put a quick plug for coaching. You know, I currently work with an executive coach, Sika Chum, who's one of the speakers in today's conference, was coaching me for a season of my life as well. Coaching is critical. And counseling as well. You know, I believe that you cannot be your best self by yourself. In fact, I wrote that in my second book. It's like chapter number 8. You can't be your best self by yourself. Success is a multi-person job. And, you need the voices of mentors. You need the voices of coaches in your life. If you're navigating a rise to the top of anything, you need support. You need those that'll be telling you where you are misaligned, where you need to redo and readjust and recalibrate in order to be great. So part of how you can overcome those challenges is really gaining that self-awareness. And one of the channels through which you build self-awareness is through coaching. And some of us come from social and cultural contexts that have, really nurtured a way of viewing the world that really isn't helpful to where we're trying to go. Oh, women don't talk in public. And so you just nurtured that as a mindset, and it's become a behavior and an attitude. And so you've got brilliant ideas, you've got brilliant things to say, and nobody knows it because you just have bought into this social conditioning that I'm supposed to be quiet. Maybe you size everybody out in the room. You size everybody up and you think to yourself, well, I'm the youngest here, so surely all of the wisdom must come from the elders. You've got to disabuse your mind of anything that'll affect your ability to accept yourself and apply these tools that foster healthy relationships, right? Because if you can't get past these past experiences like I had, maybe you went through trauma. It's overwhelmingly apparent to me, the more work that I do with women, that those that have had childhood trauma, maybe rape or sexual abuse, those that have gone through, tragic life events like divorce or like a painful separation from a long-term love relationship. We sometimes internalize the pain of that to such a way that it mutes our voice, and we are afraid to speak up for ourselves. And we know that a big piece of healthy relationship comes from affection and love and emotion. And when your emotions have been so badly bruised in times past, it makes it hard to open up again. And so part of how you set yourself up to practice better communication and better assertiveness is by healing those deep emotional wounds. You know, a few weeks ago, I hosted a healing retreat, and I've become very passionate about healing because I realized that, you know, when I went through some traumatic things in my life and just kept going as if nothing was wrong, you know, I started to implode after a moment. I started to self-destruct, and Sika, who walked along with me through some of that, you know, the pain of giving birth to a special needs child, and I just kept going as if everything was okay, but I didn't deal with the pain. And because of that, things started showing up in my personal life and in my career life that were directly related to that unresolved pain. So I just really, really want to reiterate the fact that all of us need help in one area or the other. And that's why Me Hemaa as a community is important. And that's why I just really want to commend Papa again and all the leaders of this great community, because we, each one lifting each other up, is a vital piece of how we can grow together. The last strategy that I really want to encourage as a key is polish your professionalism. You know, I want more and more women to win at work. And one of the reasons why many women aren't winning at the places where they work or have influence as professionals is that they haven't quite invested in the polish part. You might be technically competent. You might have these natural skills that have got you to a certain level. And there's a really great book by one of my favorite coaches, Marshall Goldsmith. And he writes that what got you here won't get you there. See, you know, in Ghana, we use the word takashi, right? Your own personal effort, like your own hustle, can get you to a certain level. The stuff you know and have learned in school, the technical ability gets you to a certain level. But there is something to be said about acquiring a polish to your professionalism. And that's partly what inspired me to go study at the Protocol School of Washington in 2013, because I realized that no matter how technically astute I was, and I tell people all the time, I've been saying the same things that I'm saying now for years, but now I do it with a polish. I've learned how to present myself differently. I've learned the rules of executive presence and how to present to audiences. I've my craft as a speaker through Toastmasters. But in addition to Toastmasters, I've worked with one-on-one speech coaches who helped me learn how to modulate my voice and regulate it and present to audiences. I've polished the natural ability. And that's where I think a lot of you are. You've got this natural ability, but it's now time to elevate. I keep using the word elevate because some of us, you know, really need to prepare ourselves for prominence through elevating how we show up in the world. You know, some of us we get too casual with people too quickly. Um, and I noticed that a lot in Ghana. And when I studied at the Protocol School of Washington, it was like deliverance for me. Those of us who are Christians, not all deliverance happens with laying on of hands and with some oil. I mean, I was delivered from things that I thought were just the way we do things, right? Did you know, for example, that there's a protocol for how you give and receive a business card? There's a protocol for how to sit. There's a seating protocol based on rank and status when you're in a professional business environment. There are protocols for how you eat. A lot of HR people now conduct interviews for jobs over meals because a lot of HR information now says that you can learn everything you need to learn about a person by watching how they eat. So there's this world of knowledge that seems so alien to us because, yeah, we get away with a lot in this social and cultural context. And that's where I'm finding that a lot of people weren't elevating because they didn't polish their professionalism. There's a way that you shake hands. There's a handshaking protocol. There's a way that hands, and in Ghana, a lot of us give horrible handshakes as women. I have seen the difference between night and day when people come through my sessions and we learn about executive presence, we learn about some of these protocols, and we integrate them even into our personal lives. Because some of the reasons why my marriage wasn't doing well some season ago is that we just got too familiar with each other. So I wasn't really respecting, and I got too familiar. And so the courtesy I would show other people, I wasn't really showing my spouse that courtesy anymore. You know how you are when you have guests at home. Oh, can I get that for you? Help you. I stopped doing that. And when I went to protocol school, I was like, I've actually really not been as courteous with my spouse as I used to be. I remember one day he made a comment. He said, "Who are you talking to on the phone?" I got put the phone off. I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Wow, you speak really nicely on the phone. The way you talk to me on the phone, I wish you talked to me like that." I felt so ashamed because it's true. When you're familiar with a person over time, you sometimes lower your standard for respect, for deference. So now, everyone who knows me knows I call my husband Oga, because I want to always show that respect. And I want to be reminded that he's the Oga, he's the boss, right? Even modulating how I talk to him on the phone. Hey, honey, I can't talk right now. Or Oga, I beg, can I call you back? He's the call I always pick up because I realize that, wow, our relationship is just so much better when I'm as courteous to him as I would be to any client, right? So think about that in your friendships. Have you become a little too familiar? Do you really treat your friend like she's important or he's important like you used to? And that's the thing about humans. Sometimes we forget. We just become too relaxed in our ways. And that when you reintroduce polish to relationships that are critical, it really changes the game. So in addition to the assertiveness skills, the emotional intelligence, the understanding the framework within which to build your relationships, you want to polish your professionalism because it does a couple of things. It helps you to distinguish yourself. You know, Many of us are just way too casual, especially in the workplace, than we should be. And we get casual too quickly. So there's no way you should meet someone for the first time and call them dear. And I teach this in my intercultural protocol classes, and people are shocked. It's like, oh, I just want them to know that I appreciate them. But it's like, that's getting too casual too quickly. It's not work appropriate. It does not create an image of professionalism, right? It helps you to develop and maintain relationships. Like if you keep a polished manner about how you handle your core relationships, it'll make a difference. Because sometimes you are going off to all-night prayer, praying for your marriage, but you're just being spiritually ridiculous. You're just not doing the things that you need to foster a good marriage. Maybe instead of investing all that time, going about asking for prayer, you need to just polish the way you handle that relationship, right? Maybe your friendship, these days when I call, you don't pick my call. Instead of you. It's like, oh, I just noticed that these days when I call, you don't pick up. Is something wrong? I hope I haven't offended you. That changed the game. In Ghana, we do that a lot. Hey, last time I was calling you, son, you didn't pick up. Instead of you, change it through assertiveness. I noticed that the past 3 times I've tried to call you, you didn't pick up. It's been a busy season, hasn't it? Or is there something going on? And give them the chance to tell you what's going on, right? Or I actually don't like calls in the middle of my day. I've had to tell people that. As you noticed a few moments ago, someone was just calling me in the middle of the day. I have a schedule, I stick to my schedule, and I try to minimize distractions. So unless we have scheduled a call, I'm very unlikely to pick it up because I schedule my day. So people who take the time to ask me, I tell them that, oh, let's just schedule the call because I am trying to be a productive me. I'm a mother of young children, and I try to get through a lot of things before my kids get home. So if you call me in the middle of the day, I have a judgment call to make. do I interrupt for 10 minutes or 15 minutes to see what this is about? Or do I just keep powering through my day? And I often choose to just power through my day. And so when someone takes the time to ask me that, they get the feedback that enhances the relationship. Do you see the world of difference that level of polish makes? But when you see someone and you say, when we even call you cry, you don't answer. You think you are too important. You've just destroyed your relationship with me, and you've actually just offended me a little because you've not taken the time to understand. So think about, what relationships might you have damaged because you didn't take the time to add a little polish to how you assert, or add a little polish and not jump to assumptions, not think it's about you. These days we see you flying all over the world. You don't have time for those of us in Ghana. Oh, instead, I've missed you. Look at the difference. I really miss you. I'd really love to find time together. Do you have time on your schedule in the coming week? So flip it. Don't come at people as you. Say I have missed you. I'd really love to spend time with you. It changes when I go to my husband and say, hey, these days you don't take me out. But I say, okay, I've missed you. Please, can we go on a date this week? Different responses. So it works in every level of relationship. And I really want you to go out and give this a big try. Will you give it a try for me? So like I said, I teach all of this and more in courses that are certified by the Protocol School of Washington. I do have some upcoming virtual classes throughout the month of August, and I'd love to send you more information if it might be interesting to you. But I hope that you've been able to see that by connecting your emotional intelligence, your self-awareness, and your ability to polish your professionalism, you really, really set yourself up to build the healthiest possible relationships. I hope that this has been insightful. I hope I've given you strategies that you can go implement right away. And I hope that you'll stay in touch with me and hopefully sign up for one of my upcoming classes so that I can continue to help you develop the polish of a world-class professional. For those of you women who are looking for executive coaching as well, I do have a few slots open for one-on-one. I do power lunches. I do strategy sessions as well. And I just really, really want to, again, thank the organizers for this opportunity to share with you some of what I hope will help you lead more successful and transformed lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yawa. Thank you. I appreciate the comment session is going on fire. A lot of people have been sending in messages. I got a few and I'm just going to mention them very quickly. So Claudia was saying coaching is a real game changer. Janet G was saying this is gold and you're such an amazing person. You're a gift. Nicole was saying this is amazing. She appreciates the knowledge that you're providing. And Christabel was saying this is a very engaging conversation. And then Mary Magdalene is saying, I really like this. And of course, I saw a couple more that came in. I'm just reading one right now from Maka that says, this is really insightful. Everyone is saying thank you. And I truly, truly, truly enjoyed listening to you. Firstly, I love your voice. I truly love your voice and I love the knowledge that you've shared with all of us here on this call. I expected this, so it wasn't like I didn't know what to expect. I expected that you were going to come with a lot of knowledge to share with all of us, and you didn't fall short with that. I have a couple of questions, so everyone on the call, please put in your questions in the Q&A session. If it's truly, truly urgent that you have to speak, we'll have to get one of the Zoom masters to get you on stage so that you can voice out your questions. However, I saw a question in the Q&A box, and it's from Danielle. Something I'm practicing in workplace, especially as someone who likes to bottle things up and not speak up when I'm offended. But what do you do in a situation where even after constantly elevating yourself when it comes to a particular person, they keep doing things to push you to the wall? They they constantly do things to offend you, and whilst they don't see anything wrong with it, what do you do, especially when you're a leader over that person?
Thank you for the question. I think when there is offense and there is some sort of friction brewing, you do want to examine. Remember, I talked about 3 circles. Where does this person sit in my 3 circles? And I think there's a lot of contrary information that I keep warning young people about. Online, quiet quitting, this idea that if they don't hear me out, they have to hear my truth. You've got to examine through the lens of where people sit in these 3 circles. If you are offended by someone in a circle above you, I don't think the first thing is confrontation. I think the first thing is reflection, especially if you are the one who is subordinate to that person. So, for example, someone gives you difficult feedback in the workplace about your performance. Listen more to what they are saying about your performance more than how they are saying it. I think that when you first make the effort to address the message they gave before you address how they said it changes the game, right? And this is what I tell my mentees. Don't think too highly of yourself right now because you are on the up and coming, right? Have a reputation for good performance first before you are out here talking about your feelings, because it's easy to start respecting someone who actually is valuable to you. So before you ask to take, first have you given? In the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Stephen Covey talks about this concept that I love. And in that book, he talks about the emotional bank account. I'm out here trying to make a withdrawal. So let's just say assertiveness, you're trying to make a withdrawal from that bank account. Like, what have you put in there first? You can't withdraw from an account that is empty, right? And so if a person who's offended you is in the category of someone who's a little more senior than you, they have responsibility over you, I don't think the first point of reference should be the confrontation. I think it should be reflection. What is this person trying to tell me? Can I see what they said, not just how they said it? Because sometimes when you look at a conversation from just how it's being said, you miss what's being said. And I think a lot of young people are making that mistake in the workplace. And so, employers are fed up and like, every day it's your feelings, your feelings. Can you just do the work you've been hired to do every day? Like, this makes me feel this is a toxic work environment. You will be in environments that are a little tense. And that's why I started my presentation by talking about cooperation and compromise. You want to foster healthy cooperation first before you move to the realm of feeling, especially if they are people who pay you and people that are more senior to you. If it's a realm of someone who's a peer, by all means, confront. Yeah, by all means, say, look, what you said and how you said it offended me. Can we fix that? Fine. But I think the nuance needs to come in when there's a subordinate superior relationship, because, superiors are frustrated people when there's no performance. So first, can we fix the performance? Then we can talk about your feelings. Because if that's the only frame in which you're giving feedback to someone who's senior over you, one of 2 things will happen. Number one, they'll just start investing their time with someone else. They will work you out of the system. They're like, you are just too emotionally minded, which is why I kept using the word elevate. For some of us, we just are perpetually nitpicking about how we feel. Our whole day can be disrupted because someone didn't greet us. That is a sign that we haven't elevated emotionally, right? So if you are just so caught up in the feeling of a thing that you can't sieve out what a person is saying, that's a sign that you need to do a little more inner work, right? So I want to invite you to think about that. And if you're the superior, and people are constantly disrespecting you, I think you need to sign up for my class, because there's a lot of people who have position, but they don't have authority. And they don't have authority because of the way they carry themselves. And one of the mistakes, there's a really great book called The 7 Deadly Sins of Women in Leadership. And the author is Kate Coleman. You know, I invited her to Ghana. She's in the UK, and we've run standout leadership sessions with her based on these 7 deadly sins. And one of the deadly sins is many of us want to be everybody's friend, but we're nobody's leader. We want to be liked more than we want to be effective. So like that scenario that I gave you when I was a 26-year-old manager, you know, I was accused of having gone to bewitch my employer because I joined the company and within 8 months, my boss wanted to travel with me everywhere because I had polished my professionalism. I had good manners. I was well spoken. I was articulate. I dressed well. And I was promoted 3 times within 2 years because look, she saw something in me that was different from all of her staff. So they said, you know, these Ewes, you know, my mother is Ewe, my father is Guan. She said, people in the company were saying I had gone to bewitch her because there's a popular, you know, shrine in my mother's village. So they're like, we know that's why she's succeeding. So some people will rubbish why you succeed to supernatural means. But when you polish your professionalism, it changes the game. And so I was in charge of someone who wasn't respecting me, and I had to check it quickly. And so that disrespect left unchecked for a long time means that people don't take your word seriously. But it starts with self. Do you take your word seriously? Do you practice integrity with yourself? When you say the meeting starts at 8, I start all my meetings right on time. It's like, okay, thank you for, you know, I thank those who came on time. And then I have a word quietly with those who didn't, because I don't like calling people out in front of others, because sometimes there are legit reasons. But that's one way I elevated my team. You know, those that came on time, I would thank them publicly. So everybody just wanted to be thanked publicly by me. And so they just started coming up. And I learned this partly by coaching, partly by books I read, but I knew that I'd gone through the training of how to have executive presence. I was 26, 28 when I started walking in these executive realms. I'm traveling with my boss as her right-hand manager. And so I needed to elevate very quickly. And so these are some of the things that I would encourage. I probably have to know a lot more to be more specific, but in general, if you are the superior and people aren't respecting you, it probably is boiling down to these rules around executive presence. And that's what I teach through my protocol classes. Like, what are the elements of executive presence? I also have an image course that I teach as well through, like, you know, and this is a certified course by Protocol School of Washington. Like, what are the colors that you choose to demonstrate power and authority? Like, I paid a lot of attention to how I showed up to this virtual call today. Like, okay, it's going to be an audience of people. Some may not know me. How do I put off, you know, the research says people make an impression about you in the first 3 to 5 seconds. And it's not personal. You're making impressions by, you know, the way I look, the way I'm dressed, the way I'm talking. You're making impressions by this presentation. And you want to manage all of that as a leader. And the truth is, everybody watches. And so sometimes people just don't respect you because they see that you don't respect yourself. You said we will do this, and then, you know, someone just comes and talks you out of it. You're not firm. You don't honor the things that you said you would do. And all of that feeds into people's perceptions of you. And sometimes, especially when you're newly promoted, I have 5 I'm currently working as a coach to 5 newly promoted directors in one of the ministries here. These are public sector leaders, and you know, shout out to all the public sector leaders. They have a different set of variables, but you know, majority of them, 3 out of the 5 are women, right? And the women are struggling with the perception of authority. The men aren't. because men kind of walk in these circles where they see it, they see power more regularly. Many of you probably leave work and you're headed home, right? Many of you leave work and you're probably heading to the next unpaid job, right? Take care of those babies, feed them, put food on the table. But many of our spouses and our male colleagues, they leave work and they go hang out with other leaders. They're networking. So some of the things that they kind of know automatically because of the social construct of their lives, we don't know. And that's why I really encourage a lot of women. That's why you saw more women on that slide that said polish your professionalism, because there's just this world of stuff you don't know because your life centers around home and work. Home and work. And when you go to conferences, you sit with friends that you already know instead of networking. And so that kind of learning that comes from watching how the big boys do it, watching how the leaders do it, we don't know. And that's why I get passionate about teaching this and recommending that more and more women invest in that type of knowledge, because many of us, if we're being honest, we're the backdrop to our units, our divisions, the company. But why aren't we being promoted? Because they're like, you're good, like executing, but we're not sure that we can put you in front of people. We're not sure. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was invited to coach this woman. The company hired me to coach her. And I was asking the CEO, like, she's like, look, Yawa, I won't lie. She is good. But may that be a phrase we never hear about any of you. Good. But he says she's been here, she's done the work, she's ready, but I can't put her in front of people. If I promote her, she's our company's representative to these countries. And you know what? She walks around the office like a giraffe and she chews like she's good, but I can't take her out. And to be honest, that was what the company I was describing before, that was her problem. She had a lot of good, faithful employees that have worked for her 8 years, 10 years. And I'm this young person, new to the industry, new to everything, that had a polish that they lacked. So of course, everybody loved to hate me because I got what they were always looking for, but never got. So some of you might be praying against a witch or a wizard in your mother's village who is sitting on your promotion, when the difference between you and your next level is acquiring the polish of a professional, learning the skills of communication. How can you have these difficult conversations? I've had to have the difficult conversations of firing someone or discontinuing a contract with a company. And that's what comes with leadership. But when they see you at this level, can't even tell someone that what they said offended you, do you think they want to with more responsibility? The truth is no. So that's what I would say. Let's work on polishing your professionalism, because when you show up differently, and the last thing I want to say, stop sexualizing your appearance. I think a lot of us influence what we wear to work and in professional environments by what we see celebrities wear. So, celebrities are great. We love them. They keep us entertained, but let that be all they do for you. The rules of work and professionalism are very different, and they're informed more by royalty than they are by celebrity. I'm going to say that again. The rules of work were informed more by the rules that govern royalty than they are the rules that govern celebrity. So, celebrities, everything is tight and cut, and, see the boobs, you see everything, nothing is left to the imagination. So when they see you, do they see Nicki Minaj, or do they see someone who is regal and royal? That's also another thing that many of us have to fix, because we in like stilettos, they're great for parties, but they weren't meant for the workplace. You've got to invest in work appropriate clothes that aren't tight and fitting. And, and many of us wear makeup to the workplace that's like nighttime makeup for the clubs, not necessarily daytime makeup for seriousness. So of course people can't take us seriously. When they see us, someone was complaining to me, I was like, oh, the men in my office, they are so bad. Oh, yeah, they come, they put their hand around my waist and everything. And I said, can you give me some pictures of what are the kinds of things you wear to work? And I was like, well, of course they would do that, because you look like every woman in a music video. You look sexualized in a way that makes a person, feel like, oh, you are here for my pleasure, not for my partnership and my collaboration, right? So that's the last thing I would say. I might be shaking tables now. Let me shut up.
Thank you so much, Yawa. I think that we could go on, and to think that I just asked you one question and we've literally just gone on and on. You're one of those people who would like give wisdom for every time that you speak, and I truly do appreciate it. So what I'm going to be doing next is kind of I think you've answered some of the questions that have come up in the Q&A as well, but I'm just going to have a quick check to see what we haven't answered. So someone is asking, I'll ask all the questions and then you can give me one summarized answer so that we can quickly get to the next speaker. The next question rather is someone, Alexandra is asking if you have room for protege, and then someone is saying, how do you not doubt yourself? Christiana, sorry, saying, how do you not doubt yourself and begin to believe in yourself? And then I think I have another one in the chat box. Just get into it, technology. Okay, so someone was saying, Emma is asking, she said, I believe not just everyone has to be in your space to develop or grow. When and how do you determine true relationship? And what are some of the parameters to cut off those that seem to be good, but deep down, they aren't good or they don't have good intentions? I think that's about the kind of questions that we have. And of course, every other person is giving you claps and saying, wow, God bless you. Dressing should be informed by royalty, not celebrity. And I found that truly interesting because I'm currently watching House of Dragons and I see that, that royalty and the regalia that they come with, it actually like gives you power, like it's power pose and power dressing. So the questions and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. These are great questions. Question one, am I looking for a protege? Yes, all the time. I love pouring into people. And so, drop me a line and let's see how I might be able to support you. And then also through the Leading Ladies Network, we have a vibrant community of over 12,000 women and girls from all over the world. And those of you in Kenya, I'm coming to Kenya August 31st. We're going to have our Standout Women Leaders experience. I'm happy to share more information with you, directly or through the conference organizers. The question about how to not doubt yourself. Whew, girl, we need time. Part of how you build the confidence in yourself is by giving yourself the time and space to grow. It's by trying and failing. It's by, showing up. And I feel like I'm in a new season where I'm personally showing up differently. Those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, I shared a post, for the past 2 years, I've been in a season that I call a purposeful pause. I wanted to rejuvenate, recalibrate, re-examine my goals. I found a lot of public success very early in my career, and I've just been going and going and going. And some of us just don't take the time to stop and think, am I still going in the direction that I want to go? And that's why I want to reiterate the importance of coaching. Like throughout this season, I've worked with a coach and a counselor, a wellness person. I've lost a lot of weight. Those who know me know that I've been obese for most of my life, but now I'm prioritizing health and wellness and prioritizing how I show up and where I show up, the kinds of things that I do. And although I'm still working, I'm being very selective on what I do because look, there is only one you, and you don't want to invest all your time and effort trying to be an echo of someone else. Want to find and be your one true voice. So it just takes time. It takes time to learn how to trust yourself. And I think that's the role mentors play. I think everyone cannot be their best self by yourself. Find mentors, someone who's further along on their journey than you are. And mentorship needs to be mentee led. If you want someone to mentor you, you don't just say, okay, I've come, so mentor me. You say, Yawa, I really like this. I'd like to learn that. May I learn, So I was on the call last night with someone who's a true mentee. She said, Yawa, this season of my life, this is what I need to learn. This is what I like. And then we've established how I can help her, because sometimes Some of you say you want mentorship, but what you need is psychotherapy. You're dealing with something that you're not meant to burden with. You need a counselor. You need someone to help you deal with that. Mentors are usually busy. They're usually further along in their career, and often they have intention to support, but you have to help them see how they can support you, right? So for example, this woman, who's the head of the United Nations office at Nairobi, has been a longtime mentor of mine. So when I told her I'm going to host this event in Nairobi and we're going to do it at this place, she's like, how would you come to my city and host this thing somewhere else? I'm going to host it. And it's elevated my event, but it's because I keep her abreast on what I'm doing, and if she knows someone who can help, she helps. And she's elevated me in ways. I mean, my last trip to Nairobi, she had me taken off the plane, y'all. I've never had that happen. She had me escorted from the plane through immigration, and she hosted me at her home on my last visit. And so she's become now someone of trust. But because one thing she told me, it's because she sees the investment she makes in me. I come back and give her feedback. What you said to me last time, I take notes. I don't just sit in front of her and listen and nod. I take a notebook. All the things that she's written. In fact, there's a whole chapter in my second book that I've written dedicated to her. Some of the wisdom keys that I learned from her as my mentor. And when she's going to speak at places, I ask her, is there any way I can help? I'm good with slides. Can I help you? So sometimes mentorship starts through service. So some of us have a chip on our shoulders. We're like, I wanted her to mentor me, but she's this. No, it's your job to get what you need. It's your job to chase. It's your job to follow. It's your job to make it a mutually beneficial cooperation. And that's where healthy relationships emerge. That now she's cooperating with me on where I'm going with my agenda, because I've proven over the years that I'm a good mentee. Lastly, when or how do you determine who is needed and when? That's a great question. I would link it back to what I said about self-awareness and about vision. Many of us, if I were to be honest, like maybe even show emojis so we know, like how many of you have a written plan and vision for your life? And you have like, if I asked you what your top 3 things you're working on right now, how many of you could tell me? And I think that therein lies the problem for a lot of us. Many of us aren't living by vision. We're just kind of showing up, whatever shows up, we do it. We're working this job because it's the only one that responded when we put out all of our applications to other places. It's the only, I married that guy because he's the only one who asked me to marry him. We've not been really deliberate about sitting in the driver's seat of our lives and being able to say, well, actually, no, where I'm going is here. And I remember used to feel really bad because what I wanted, I've been called too known, stuck up, because my vision looks a little different from everybody else. That I'm a little extra. I'm like, I want to be the best at this. And if that's not your priority, don't judge me that that's not your priority. Just move along. And so part of how you choose who needs to be in your circle, first and foremost, is by comparing it to the vision of your life. Where is my life going? Where do I want it to go? Like, you can't surround yourself with the kinds of people that de-energize you or demotivate you from where you're trying to go. And I really want you to think about that as the fundamental way you make your decision. Like, there are some people who are friends and acquaintances, but very few in the inner circle, because the inner circle, they know my business. They know what I'm struggling with. They know what I'm trying to do, but they also create value for me, right? So, and again, coaching, like, don't try to negotiate a rise in your career without a coach to help you do it. Like, all you see, my new image, my new profile, it's because I'm working with an executive coach, in this season to kind of rebrand and message like the new me, the new vision of me. And she and I meet every Tuesday, 11 o'clock to 1 p.m., just strategizing. And I'm being accountable to someone. And that's why a lot of us don't move forward, because when we do invite people in our lives, we don't add the accountability. They told you something 2 years ago, you never acted on, you never got back to them, and so we are the reason why we're stuck. And if you want to elevate into a new circle, it means you've got to elevate into how you think. Instead of thinking, oh, I can't do this. Like, how can I do this? And for some of us, it means change what we invest in. We want to be helped for free. We don't invest. We don't want to pay to be coached. Like I did Toastmasters for a while, but where I wanted to get to, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start investing in private coaching. And it helped me to really manage my voice better. I worked with a brilliant coach called Sue Galkey, and she taught me the power of my breathing. She said, Yawa, there's your problem. You don't breathe right. I was like, what? And she taught me these exercises and she taught me these practices that have elevated my presentations to a new level. So I've always been interested in the speaking, but when it was time to elevate, I couldn't, like the Toastmasters, even 20 something dollars or 30 something dollars, some of you are complaining about. I went and paid some thousands of dollars to someone to get me to elevate. But now it means that I'm invited internationally to speak and I deliver. I'm a keynote address. I give keynotes, and that's part of the main ways I make money. I haven't had a 9 to 5 in the past 2 years, but I'm doing all right. So part of how you elevate is by understanding that I can't go with everybody. You've got to be comfortable with people judging you. You've got to be comfortable with you will not be everybody's cup of tea. And when God was calling you, it wasn't a conference call. We didn't all log into the Zoom. So we don't all have the particulars. So you just got to stay true to what God's whispering to your heart in the form of vision and run with it. Like I can't integrate with everybody. It was when my profile, you introduced me. I've been part of the World Economic Forum community for a few years, and I served on one of their boards. And it was when I shook the hands of a head of state and snapped. I snapped their hand. Can you believe that, y'all? I do the thing we do in Ghana. And their security team nearly accosted me because they thought I was trying to harm their head of state. And I was so ashamed. People were looking at me as like, what is this girl doing? But that's when I knew I can't elevate by trying to be Ghanaian abroad. I have to do international standard everywhere. So it doesn't matter if Ghanaians think I'm too known or too much or extra. I just have to. So I stopped doing the pidgin English. I write out all my text in full because I am now rolling in the realm of presidents and I can't be seen as a security threat in these realms. So I have to do the international handshakes. I have to speak eloquently as if I'm speaking to an international audience all the time because you know something, that's where I'm going. So when people are rejecting you for elevating, that tells you all you need to know. They don't belong in your circle. Let them go. But sometimes you're like, oh, but we're neighbors. We lived together. We went to secondary. Like, let it go. Let the emotions come out of it and elevate to that place of strategic thinking, where you're thinking about these healthy relationships from the context of cooperation and concessions. I hope that this is helpful. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Please, let's put our hands together for Yawa if we can. But if we cannot, please, let's see the emojis go up. Thank you so much for your time on here today. I hope everyone who asked a question or maybe had a comment got the response that they were looking for. However, if you did not get the response that you're looking for, Yawa was so good to share her email address in the last slide. And if you didn't get that right, it is Yawa at hqconsulting.biz. So if you want to get through to Yawa, it is Yawa at hqconsulting.biz. I'm just going to share a couple of things that I gained from this session because I have been writing and truly you have been a gift to all of us here on the call, and I'm truly honored to have introduced you on this call and have you speak in the ways that you did today. It has blessed me in so many ways. And of course, I took a lot of nuggets from what you shared. And the first thing is the fact that you said that there are two legs of relationship, which is the cooperation and the compromise. And I love that you kept on bringing that up as you went along the conversation. I also liked the practicality that you brought in giving your speech and all the amazing examples that you shared. And I think I saw a comment from Loretta, Dr. Loretta, who said that the information is not just that you shared with us was not just specific to a particular sector, but it kind of cuts across because she was getting marriage, lessons from you as well. And I thought that was beautifully done. There was also the affirmations that I got that I'm definitely going to be putting on my wall, which is help me to be wise and pleasant. And I thought that was really, really good. And you also talked about nothing of great and lasting value is done by oneself. I thought that was great. Of course, someone also highlighted the fact that the word polished, world-class professional is really key. And I think Enesina was the one who said that. And I thought that was beautifully done, because when we come into this space as women in the workspace, there's always that thing of, oh, maybe I should hide myself, or maybe I should be liked first before I begin to show who I truly am. And I thought that you highlighting that, it was a reminder, not just for me, but for other women too on the call, that we have been called for a purpose, and we should shine in the ways that we can. And coaching, of course, I mentioned before, it's a real game changer that every other person too has shared on the call. And thank you so much for sharing such great wisdom and gems with us here on the call. I appreciate the opportunity to having moderated this first part of the conversation here on this conference in 2024. And I look forward to the next bit, which will be the panel discussion that will be coming up soon, and we'll still be focusing on the same topic about building healthy relationships through emotional intelligence and assertive communication, with a different panel and those women, an area of power. I'm looking forward to that conversation. Over to you, our MCs. Thank you so much.